The information you will hear today is usually not accessible for default mortals. This is the chronic of meme coin wars of the first wave of 2024. Everything documented, bunch of insights, bunch of things you didn't know, and the questions you might still have. Did I scam you with Endion Blast? What happened to Endion Blast? Even if you're not the holder of Endion Blast, you would be very interested in actually knowing what happened. What was the setup? What was the thesis? Who was involved? What biggest people in this industry were talking about this? It's a very emotional video for me. I'm quite sad by the end of it, despite the fact I was feeling different emotions at certain parts when I was preparing the whole doc initially. Listen to this story. The greatest story ever told. The story of Endion Blast. By the end you will know who is manipulating crypto, how the meme coin space really works. Did I scam you with Endion Blast? Is Endion Blast dead? Where millions of dollars of investors' funds actually went? Act number 1. Inceptions of memes. Who did that? This part is specifically about the inception on memes on Solana, right? But obviously we had meme season way back on Ethereum as well. Even before Pepe, there were things like monkeys that, for example, Crash was pushing himself in the March of 2023. He actually got like 140 access on that one in the depths of the bear market. No one is present in the market at that stage, right? And then obviously Pepe appeared, jumped to $1.6 billion, and people understood that something is actually happening here. The meme market then stopped for a bit, and since June till the August, somewhere around August times, we had a small meme season on Ethereum. And then what happened after is that once the market started to recover, Solana started to recover heavily, and meme season on Solana started with Bonk. It's very important, crucially important to figure out how all of this actually started and who had started this. CEO of GotBit and GotBit essentially were the team that helped to push Bonk heavily since the bottom. Main reason for that was because they essentially had Solana infrastructure in place at the time that no one else on the market had. And even 3-4 months in, after the inception of Solana meme season, he still was saying that others, they just don't have a proper Solana infrastructure at this stage, which doesn't allow them to do things that GotBit essentially can do with the meme coins that it's operating with. I don't think you understand the significance of what I'm sharing. This is the only person you should be grateful for Solana meme season, not Ansem, not other Solana shield boys. Without his infrastructure, nothing will be happening on Solana. Solana would be a $7 dead ecosystem now. I strongly agree with that because I do believe that Sol went up mainly because of the fact that it was able to find product market fit. Product market fit for Sol is meme coins. Without memes, it would be just a default dead blockchain out there. There would be no Solana meme season without Bonk, and he's behind the success of Bonk. Listen to what he has to say.
First airdrops brought a lot of on-chain liquidity to Solana, and it's easy to compare with Biden checks to US citizens during the COVID. So when this free liquidity comes into ecosystem, usually it stays into ecosystem and just distribute from airdrop hunters to most hyped projects on chain. And Bonk, I think from August till December was the #1 hype on Solana. That's why they collected a lot of liquidity from airdrops. I think that next chain, which will be famous for meme coins, can become Blast.
Also, very interesting part about infrastructure at that stage. Structure for Solana on-chain trading, right?
It's hard to compare, but I think others just don't have any infrastructure.
Others don't have any. This interview was done in February, so we were already 4 to 5 months in Solana meme season, and yeah, without the thing that these guys built, nothing would be happening, in my opinion, on Solana out there. And if you think about that, due to the presence of this infrastructure, due to the success of Bonk, due to the success of other projects like Myro and some others that were present in Sol, essentially it opened up a gateway for all these scammy and shady Solana influencers, because a lot of people, they had followings, a lot of people, they had followers at that stage, but they were so fucking poor after the bear market. And what they eventually decided to do is milk the place where there were a lot of money off, right? So scam influencers, they joined the Solana market right after. Market inefficiency getting closed over time. And like some things I wanted to say about Ansem. Obviously, he's praised for calling Solana at the bottoms and things like that, but there is a public list of his predictions for 2024. Each and every one of them pretty much was wrong, right? So the only thing he was correct on, I do honestly think that he did not even have a lot of Solana at that stage. I do think that something that might have happened is that he just has seen the success, the product market fit that was enabled by other people and just came in, they cabbled with, and they essentially decided to push us as well as the main rival of Bonk out there. And we all can see where WIF is currently and where Bonk is currently at this stage. Market efficiency getting closed over time, 100%. I do believe that this is something that happened as well with more market making team being added into Solana over time, right? But definitely at the state of the February 2024, I do believe that the best infrastructure was still in the hands of GotBit just because they had like a head start. They were able to build it and they're a proper company in comparison to most of the things that we had on the market at that stage. Millions of dollars worth of SOL made for certain parties. Yeah, I know about some scam cases out there, like memes just being pushed like to 100 million market cap and just being racked to zero out there with people effectively farming like 10 million plus. And it was like very, very early. It was December 2023, right? So even before 2024, things like that, they were happening already. Institutions supporting meme coin games. One of the biggest thing in terms of the success of the whole thing is that due to the infrastructure that GotBit enabled, they essentially enabled institutions to participate in the game. During the same interview, he was also saying that at least 30% of volume in meme coins, he was obviously speaking about Solana, is coming from institutions at this stage. This was nothing that was essentially present before, and yeah, I do believe that even for NFTs, probably was like very, very hard to imagine that institutions could have any involvement or any like way to put some money and have a direct involvement into the whole thing. Most likely they pumped CryptoPunks with Gary Vee, and most likely they made a bunch of money anyway, right? But there is a high chance that they missed more of this meta in comparison to meme coins, just because meme coins were enabled by GotBit. The way for institutions to join were enabled by GotBit, and arguably this is the reason why the whole thing lasted for more time out there. And I do believe that meme coins are actually most likely not going to die in the upcoming 10 years, especially the trading that is constantly happening in Solana. Each and every pump on the market, like in each and every moment, something is always pumping. Each and every new liquidity on the market, like new inflow, meme coins, they're just rebirthing each and every time. And why I'm sharing all this is because CEO of GotBit was the person who onboarded me into Blast. He mentioned Blast and he actually made me bullish on it, right?
I think that next chain, which will be famous for meme coins, can become Blast, actually. Blast can become really famous for meme coins. They launch in mainnet very soon. Probably mainnet will be live after this.
Blast. Let's move on. Why CEO of GotBit and GotBit is important to him? He made me initially bullish on Blast and pushed me to research and look into it. Initially, I got scammed for $11,000. So this is a very interesting story. During the time when the mainnet of Blast launched initially, there were a bunch of scam mainnets and scam bridges where you did not have the option to perfectly essentially put your money into. And I had some information that top 2 memes on Blast, which was Mia and something else, was already like market mated by like proper teams out there, right? And I wanted to buy into them. But what it ended up with is that I essentially transferred my money into this scam chain, and they had the same copies of the same memes pretty much. They let them live for a short period of time, and then they essentially scammed everything, they racked everything, and I got racked for $11,000 out there. CEO of GotBit enabled meme season the way we know it on Solana. I was speculating on the fact that the strategy they used on Bonk and Solana might be the one that they will use on Blast and Andy. But were they planning to do so? This is the real question. Were they actually planning to do so? You will figure out if so at the end of the video. This is essentially business value, and this part is, if you think about like market making companies a business, this is just the base case for them. So they pump Bonk from the bottoms, they help to enable the pump out there, and then they become famous because of it, and they get a bunch of clients from Solana ecosystem wanting to actually become their market maker. Like they farm like so many clients out of that. Obviously, the situation in this summer was a bit different for GotBit already. Like their reputation was not that great, and the idea as I just have thought to myself, was essentially to do the same thing with Andy on Blast. Pump it to billions and then enable meme season on Blast and get a bunch of clients on Blast to actually market make the meme coins, making a bunch of money from volume as well. This is the strategy that just came up by myself around the time of June, around the time before the Blast airdrop. And today I will confirm whether or not this strategy was actually confirmed by the team of GotBit or not. I also won't be sharing much because the situation for them is not that great. The guy's in jail, so I do believe I have to be careful with the things I'm sharing. And yeah, would also be some insights out there, right? And I do believe that if people would ask me to remove this, I will just delete this video. So make sure to actually watch it closely in the first place, right? Act number 2. Part 1. Yellow character on yellow chain. Brad Better Play. Did Crash and his community ever looked or supported Andy on Blast? Blast thesis, biggest meme on chains, Crash thesis, read on tone, and Brad FOMO and Better Play. This is something I was never showing before. No one knows about it as well. Back to when Crash pushed the narrative blue mascot on blue chain, I found Blast was coming out when Brad started pumping. So I wrote one code to monitor the Blast chain and new contracts, searching for Andy. I was playing dots at 1 AM when I got the notification. I even shared on Crash's group. Crash asked me to buy for him, but I didn't have Ethereum available. Lols. So this might be the first person, kinda guilty if you think about that, of Crash not supporting Andy on Blast in the first place and eventually turning out to support Andy on Ethereum, which backfired a lot, and I will explain why. And Crash obviously understands this at this stage. Unfortunately, he did not understand it at the right time because there were no people around him to tell him that, and because I was behaving myself as I don't know, some guy with hurt ego, it was just crazy. We will talk about this as well. So this is essentially the first guy to blame in terms of Crash not supporting Andy on Blast, because obviously if some supply was bought for Crash in terms of Andy on Blast, most likely he'll support it. He will just cabble it himself, right? As kind of this better play to Brad and make it in a safe way for Brad out there. 100% that this is something that might be happening. Discussions with Crash in terms of supporting Andy on Blast. Now, they were continuing in the months of April, months of May, essentially, as well, through the pumpages of that thing. And I really wanted to have him on the project, and the team wanted, and the people around, and essentially community of Crash actually introduced me to Andy on Blast in the first place. It was not me just finding it out from the market, but due to the reasons I was publicly not supporting Brad initially, and this is essentially a second person to blame out there, despite the fact you should always kind of be blaming yourself. But yeah, the fact that I was not supporting Brad, that I was salty about it. And the main reason I was salty is because I obviously was watching Crash's videos. I was in his community. I did have an option to buy Brad first at $6 million out there. I did not. And there were a lot of people in Crash community that were salty about the fact that they did not buy in, kind of fading Crash. And the main reason for that saltiness was that Crash never was sharing any contracts or a lot of hints in before he would actually do it publicly, right? In terms of his community, but we will discuss this. The message you are seeing here right now is the last message I shared in Crash DMs on TG. And we still have them. At a certain point of time, we were talking and he was essentially replying, but this was the last one. No worries, you don't respond, man. Just know I love you. Yeah, it's really like that. And I remember one of the comments that was present under one of the videos of YouTube, you're just failed Crash wannabe. And yeah, I truly wanted to be Crash. I truly wanted to be. And the chances of becoming that, despite the setup that there was no fucking cabal. It was just pure analytics of the market. It was just pure thesis. It was a very, very small channel. My Andy on Blast videos, they were getting 3.5k views at the tops and things like that. It would be just a fucking miracle if this thing actually happened. And we were quite close. We were quite close. Arguably, I would become even a bigger legend if this thing would happen, right? But let's talk about this. Act 2, Andy on Ethereum. The GW Ash fake out, or, right? Andy on Ethereum appeared on the market in March and it got racked to zero, even before essentially the Andy on Ethereum was picked up by the team of BecauseBitcoin. After that, when Andy on Blast got to $50 million in market cap, the supply of that coin Andy on Ethereum was bought by a group of people, BecauseBitcoin team. I would say. Their wallets were steadily buying out all the supply that was present for the coin for multiple days. These buys, they were happening at the end of March, start of April, and these were like 700 to 1.1k transactions. So they were buying 2 to 3 transactions a day, and they were buying like on the course of the multiple days. It's not like me, like buying something dead and putting like 20, 30, $40,000 right away and losing a bunch of money on slippage, right? They were doing it in a different way. Once finished, there was a video by Max published with suspense present that they finally picked the right Andy and an announcement that they are pushing Andy on Ethereum. Let's listen to part of this.
Here we go. Now this is Andy charted against Pepe. Look at this trend line, guys. How does this play? How does this play? You can maybe, move it like this a little bit, get one more tap in here. How is this playing, guys? At the time we're watching a sub-million market cap, derivative of Pepe, a friend of Pepe, respect this trend line and start to break out. This is all that we care about. Again, a quick reminder. It's bleeding down. Pepe's a better hold than Andy. It's moving up. It's the opposite. Andy's outperforming Pepe. Now, we're going to jump over to another screen here. So we're actually going to start charting here on Deck Screener, okay? So we are going to pull up Andy.
So the thing that he essentially said there is this is the right Andy because the contract is 0x68 and Pepe contract is 0x69. But obviously this was the right Andy because he and his team were able to scoop up all of the supply at the bottoms for nothing. Like I think he invested like $7,000 in Andy on Ethereum, having like millions at the top, right? And the strategy, like he got a lot of backlash from the community of Bobo, from Crash even in the first place, mainly because this was like this GWV Ash fake out type of play. Like I do believe that, yeah, it was just done like because Andy on Blast at the time when this was announced, it was already at $50 million in market cap, right? But I'm probably like front running a bit. So let me actually go one by one. Why Crash supported Andy on Ethereum instead of Andy on Blast? I was shitting on Brett and Crash didn't like me. We can check this out as well. I kind of feel bad even like watching this video currently, but that's quite insane.
Today on this video, I will be putting $36,000 into a meme coin and I will explain my full thought process. I will explain to you how people you trust, how people you follow actually push you to be their exit liquidity, actually tell you to buy its 200 million market cap, 300 million market cap base meme coin. So you can wait for your 2x at 400 million, at 600 million, and they will already have 200x's, 300x's, 400x's, and they will be waiting for you. They will be waiting for you to take your 2x profits and not be dumping a dime, not be dumping a fucking cent on your head.
Yeah, so obviously in the direction of community, this was the right thing to do, as Brett was like a $200 and $300 million market cap, and since then it did like 2.5x's before the huge dumpage after that wrecked a lot of people 100%. But obviously in the direction of this influencer meme coin game, that was not the right move. I do believe I'm kind of like shadow banned within the communities. I only get talked to by people that are not in the cabals, or they essentially were eliminated from cabals themselves because the cabals decided that they essentially like are doing something wrong, like they're not dumping or something, or like they're exposing things, right? So this was definitely not the right move out there. But at the same time, yeah, I just could not have been silent at this stage, and it all pretty much like was true at the end of the day, because people who were pushing Brett, this guy Rex, he farmed like he sold like 4,000 Ethereum, not $4,000, 4,000 Ethereum from Brett, right? The team of Brett, they were dumping the supply as well through the whole months. Like, so for the vast majority of the months of March, everyone was screaming about Brett, yet the market cap was staying the same, which pretty much just means that they were just dumping heavily, which got proved on the market right after, right? But there, when Brett was at $300 million in market cap, Max from BecauseBitcoin essentially comes into the play, right? And it's not even about Andy on Ethereum at this stage, because what Max BecauseBitcoin did, he actually helped to push Brett, from my point of view, from 300 million to 700-800 million out there. Mainly, and I was explaining this in the videos at the time, mainly because he used the strategy of adding like new pillar of confidence for the investors. He started to chart Brett, he started to chart it in comparison to Pepe, and he started to push the narrative that this is the better play, like Pepe is better play to Ethereum, Brett is just more leverage bet on Ethereum. So he added this pillar into the market that was definitely something new at that stage, that I do believe actually helped to push Brett from 300 million to 700-800 million. So here we can essentially compare what was the value that Crash was receiving from his community and what was the value that Crash received from Max BecauseBitcoin, despite the fact that Crash obviously was like the OG holder of Bobo. He knew all the guys there. He definitely had like much more information about Bobo than I had in the first place, than I had ever. Why Max BecauseBitcoin was more valuable to Crash than his own community? Community was constantly dumping on Crash through a range of meme coins he has been launching in the bear markets. Yeah, if you didn't know about that, Crash was launching like multiple meme coins in the bear market. He was the dev himself. And that kind of like composes into this whole picture that he might be the death of Brett, and most likely it is, right? And I do believe one of the reasons of why he stopped eventually sharing contracts within his own community is because the guys, they were dumping on his followers for the whole bear market when he was doing that. At the same time that they were doing nothing, and they could do nothing to help to push the meme coin because they obviously did not have the followings. Like they didn't have a lot of people following them on X, on YouTube, so no value from this point of view. Community missed Brett. I'm talking about private community of Crash. Faded, didn't believe in Crash, and was constantly salty in the chat. So it was not coming just by me in my videos, right? Despite the fact, like, yeah, me rewatching my thoughts about Brett probably was still like the right thing to do because many people got actually wrecked. And like 2x was the max that you could do from $300 million market cap. So before eventual drop back to like 300-400 million, and then eventually if you held, yeah, you were able to make it to $2 billion, but you would have to hold till like for 6+ months out there. It was constantly salty in the chat. So on the place of Crash, like what would you do, right? The guys that kind of your private community that you're still talking to, like you still spend time with these people in the bear market, you probably quite like a lot of these people, but they're bashing you, they're salty because you didn't give them the CA before actually push Brett in the first place. But at the same time, why you should give these guys a CA contract address when there is zero value you can actually receive from them, right? Crash has never given any beforehand info about the tokens he'd push in the community chat. People were salty about that. There were multiple cases where some of the new members or some of the existing members, they were like starting to argue with Crash, like, why the fuck you're not giving us contract addresses beforehand, before you're pushing memes? And he was just saying, no, like, I'm not giving you shit. Only like some tips here and there, but most likely, in most cases, it were just all the information that the public had was information that was present in the Crash community. Crash community was just salty. I was hating on Brett, member of his community who could have helped. So me being on YouTube at that time was probably, from the eyes of Crash, was probably like his community being on YouTube. So he definitely saw me, and I do believe at a certain point of time, like he was watching my videos. I have seen that in some things that he was sharing out there. He definitely saw me as someone who was like a part of his community out there. And me bashing on Brett was just essentially this implementation, this realization that like his private community is not supporting this thing, right? Max from BecauseBitcoin, on the other hand, he helped to push it heavily from 300 million to 800 million. He pretty much got sent $100,000 worth of bread for doing that. Or maybe he started doing this in the first place and then he got sent 100k of bread, right? But we'll talk about this. There is a very interesting fragment of the video that I would be sharing about that. One more time again, despite the fact I felt quite emotional when recalling all of the thought process, everything that happened, I don't hate anyone. I don't want to bash on anyone. This video is pure for the sake of essentially recording a chronic, right? And giving you out information that was not present before, because a lot of the things that I essentially came up with here, they are the result of my multi months analysis even after all of these events actually happened. So that's why I'm saying that the setup this thing actually had is quite crazy. We will talk about Pacman, we will talk about the whole thing. I do believe Crash felt really bad and contemplated for quite a lot of time whether or not like support Andy on Ethereum, Andy on Blast. I was sending him DMs like kind of like manipulative in a way, because I was trying to figure out his point of view on that part. And I do believe like one of the main things that happened with Crash out there, that's the same thing that happened to me in my software development company, is that people who are older, who just have more life experience, especially if they know how to do GWH fake out, they often just manipulate you and use you because you just don't understand things because you're just younger, right? This is something that I think happened with Endion Ethereum and Bobo, because Crash definitely suffered eventually from the fact that he supported Endion Ethereum, right? And Endion Ethereum is still bigger than Bobo out there. And I even wanted to send this message to Crash at one point of time, like, hey man, like, I know what is happening. The same things were happening to me in my company. Multiple times I was getting fucked by people just based on the life experience and nothing else out there. But obviously egos were at place, everyone is young, crazy money had been made, and I was not in the position to be doing that just because of the fact, like, he probably didn't like me much because I was bashing Brett. So the questions I was asking, like, hey man, I know that you are in ND on Ethereum, and I was like just saying some stuff about ND on Blast. So it was a manipulative, provocative question just to get him respond in the first place and to get out his position. At that point of time, he said that I'm not in any NDs out there. So this is something he essentially replied. And this is also from the chat. I was against Endion Ethereum, but I actually like his 0x68, 0x69 thing, especially because Blast and BNB kinda stink. End of the day, trying to call him out for serving up a 30x on a plate for everyone makes 0 sense. People were calling him out because I will tell later what he did, but eventually because he just farmed the communities that were present and he launched his own thing, forgetting absolutely about the memes that he was like bullish on before, and actually bashing on memes that he farmed the communities from, and then deleting the videos where he's bashing those memes, right? So it's also not the behaviors that people that are brought up in not GWH communities are used to, right? And I'm not bashing on this specific community. I'm not being anti something out there. It's probably like a joke out there, like running joke. And I hope the channel won't actually be banned for that, right? And guys, like, I'm just an insane guy out there, like all of this, it's all fake. Like, read a disclaimer under this video. It's all fake. It's just for pure entertainment purposes out there, right? Just the way it was done. But you can also argue that Murad, after that, did the same thing, right? It's just that he did not steal the thesis of SPX from some existing projects that was successful. So this is the only thing that was different, I do believe. And people bash Murad because of it highly, right? I do believe Crash felt really bad and contemplated for quite a lot of time whether or not to support Endion Blast on Ethereum, but considering all the factors above, the choice was obvious. His community bashed him, and I was bashing Brad, and kind of like stopping people from investing into it. And people like Max, they were essentially supporting Brad. So yeah, like the whole like things that Max actually did, like how he behaved, like it's pretty insane. Like it's actually like kudos to that, because the way it was done, like the implementation, fooling so many people and taking advantage at the point of time. Yeah, like guys, some of us, we don't know how to do these things. Some of us do know, right? When I was watching Crash supporting Endion Ethereum on stream with Max, it felt like I'm a kid and walking into my parents' room and my dad fucks another woman. So this is really how like I felt betrayed, and I did not feel like this betrayal since probably ever, right? It was very insane out there. Like I do remember my emotions at that time. These were the emotions that were not present at me. Like it was crazy. But most likely we deserve that. So as kids that were not believing in our father, let's say it this way, we deserve that. When Endion Ethereum initially was pushed by Max, I created like these posts on X, like go watching the semen of your influencer and things like that. And this is the message that Max sent me at the start, right? And we had a small discussion, but after some time we stopped communicating out there because he decided not to make peace with anyone, but fuck people up. Which is also like, if you think about that, it's a very like huge, like the story behind, like hero journey behind that, despite the fact that things like were shady and things like that, but just the fact that he was supporting the community. he was pushing all the memes from the bear market, and he was creating exit liquidity for all the projects like Sneebo, Bobo, Momo, and things like that. And then when he launched his own thing, he received like a ton of bullshit. I do remember the X space when they were just like bashing him, like with very, very rude words, like swearing on him and things like that. And after I actually heard this thing, I immediately made a public apology, and I said that I don't think that people should actually treat it Max this way, right? Despite the thing that he did, the reaction was pretty insane. Because at the same time, you still might say that he was pushing all the OG Ethereum memes in the first place, and he was pushing Bobo. And then like the community, the reaction of community, partially, if you think about that, they also made Endion Ethereum the behemoth that it essentially became, because of the fact that because of the behavior that these people essentially showed. And myself included as well, because I was sharing very, very bad things out there. The strategy that was used by Max: farm all the current market participants interested in the meta and OG holders by pushing Bobo, Bread, Sneebo, Momo, and Ethereum, Dodo, etc. Definitely happened with Pepe as well. There are probably some Pepe holders that are not very happy at this stage that they sold out of Pepe and bought Andy, right? But this was the strategy. And if you think about that, like a lot of people are using this strategy out there. It just was very, very close to me because I was a part of these communities, and I was like kind of like a general of the field. It's very interesting, right? Launch his own thing on the stolen narrative that was proven in the market already. So this is something that we are not seen to do quite often at this stage, right? And I do believe that like Endion Ethereum is probably the only case where they were able to launch something that essentially became bigger than the initial project, right? Because they obviously had like base Pepe, base Farcoin, which are the coins. They essentially are using the same strategy out there. This is the same Cabal setup out there. But Endion Ethereum was definitely able to become bigger than the original concept that they stole it from. Forget about everything before and push his own thing. So forget about everything he was pushing before and push his own thing. Here I have multiple posts of Max essentially pushing Bobo out there, right? And eventually he was like saying very, very bad things about it. I was in the community. I was paying them to be like a GigaChat BecauseBitcoin member. It's almost time for a little Bob update. Fuck, it looks good, right? Just for him to turn like completely in the different direction like 2-3 weeks later, which is really insane, right? Strategy worked well, as same as Max. There were a bunch of people who did not believe into Bobo and market memes in the bear market. They faded. Therefore, they did not have exposure. And we can clearly see that with the wallets of Max, because we can see that he was buying Bobo after the pump. Despite the fact in the bear market, he was talking about Pepe. And if you were in the Pepe community, you probably knew about these things, right? And people just faded them on purpose. And as the result of the FOMO, what essentially came out were Apu and were Andy. And that's why like this whole meta, and like we also had Hoppy. So this is essentially the result of the communities creating new things and new things and new things. And I would say like partially it's an issue, because if it would be an altcoin, just the barrier to entry would be way higher. So it will lead into the fact that there would be like a smaller amount of Pepe beta plays on the market, and Bobo would probably really be in billions, right? Partially it's probably the issue of the Bobo community out there. I know that the developer for a lot of time, like he didn't want to give any percentages to anyone. He didn't want to pay for the exchanges, and market makers probably not that great as well. So they pretty much just focused on being pushed by the influencers that were present at the time in the market. Which was like kind of like this bear market strategy. In the bear market it worked well, but in the bull market they were not able to adapt. And they not failed, but they lost in a way, right? Strategy worked well, as same as Max were a bunch of people who did not believe into Bobo and market memes in the bear. They faded, therefore they didn't have exposure, as well as a bunch of newcomers that were eager to throw the money into something meta related and not be an exit liquidity of people who bought in the bear and were holding. So partially I think the reason Max pumped Andy was because all of the memes that he was mentioning, like Sneebo, Mumu, and Bobo, farming communities from them in a way. But these communities, they were like dumping right away on all the new people that were coming. So in a way, you might say that they were not welcoming, right? They were just dumping, they were just extracting and things like that. Like Sneebo pumped to $16 million and it got dumped like right away. And if you think about that, because of the supply control that was present on Endion Ethereum, because they bought all of the supply from the bottoms, they were able to not to dump, right? So, and constant support, like I do remember the fact that there was one early holder when Andy on Ethereum pumped to 30 million, he started to dump like crazy. He dumped like 600k, right? And Max was kind of supporting in the X on X, like, hey guys, we know this is an older holder, he's dumping. Soon it will be eating, like essentially feel yourself nice and things like that. Can you trust Max? Interesting part of the video that I also wanted to share. Probably a lot of you have seen it, a lot of you have not. But yeah, this is just a very, very exciting piece of information out there, I would say. So here I'm essentially sharing the wallet of Max, where he was receiving $100,000 worth of bread initially, and then he was selling it, right? He was selling it through essentially pumping it, through talking about it, through being bullish about it. He was selling it at the same time.
He got paid by Bread team to shill and chart Bread on Twitter. At the same time, he was selling all the time through, screaming and saying how bullish he actually is on Bread and how bullish these charts actually look. Selling on his followers, on people who trust him, who are getting into Bread, the same way they're getting into Andy on Ethereum at this stage. And you might say, Stan, but didn't you know this? All of the influencers, they're doing this. Like, what's wrong about this part?
We have never, and we will never accept any sort of, pre-sale allocation type of deals. Okay, everything that we talk about here on this channel and also on X.
Yeah, so this was pretty interesting. I do believe that maybe it was the deal that Max accepted himself without the team knowing or something. Maybe it actually drew up some conflicts within the team right after, right? But I'm not sure about that. It's just the fact that he got paid, he was dumping, and he was saying that he never did that. But no one cared about this at that stage. People were euphoric and they were looking to make money. Anyway, and I was obviously sell-shaming, and this resulted in me not taking profits and losing it all. So I will make a separate video on this essentially as well. In a way, Murat used this strategy on a much bigger scale later, without a drama of stealing the narrative from other community. This is something I mentioned already. And what we have currently, Murat only mentions SPX and Giga from his list, despite the fact that there were a bunch of memes on his list. And he farmed all of the communities, and then he focused all of the attention on these two memes, right? And this is the way essentially he was able to keep them afloat, and this is the way why he received so much hate. I also believe the act of stealing of the narrative might have been supported by Crash Cabal, as they've seen Max as one of them to protect Bread and have their own version of India. This is highly speculative though. So Andy on Blast was definitely like a strong beta play to Bread, the most logical beta play. And if Blast was a success, which we will also discuss, guys, the setup for that, for these sections, it was pretty crazy. If Blast was a success, it was a pretty good fucking chance that Andy would be flipping Bread. So I do believe that at a certain point of time, they felt some maybe fear because the narrative is just too close and the team is different from them. This might be just the points of why the choice of supporting Andy on Ethereum and supporting Max was made at the end of the day. Act 3, Part 1, Andy on Ethereum versus Andy on Blast, GotBit, and Blast airdrop. The use over Andy on Blast evolved into pure business value for companies involved, which can only be the best thesis out there. Because if there are some companies in the space that actually are receiving business value around a certain coin, around like increasing the market cap of a certain coin out there, this is just the best thing out there. This is not like scam influencers that are looking to dump, to farm, and things like that. Like, company is the best thing out there, especially like a company that makes money anyway, like despite the things that happen on the market. For Blast, a lot of people, I would even say 30 to 40%. I would even argue that like 30 to 40% of people ever onboarded onto Blast, they were onboarded through Andy, which was completely missed by the Blast team. For GotBit, the same push they did with Bonk getting a bunch of Sol clients might have been planned for Andy and Blast. I do believe that like Pacman and Blast team, at certain point of time, they were just trying to replicate the behaviors of Vitalik on Ethereum, probably because of ego essentially as well, because they were definitely receiving a lot of success. And they made a range of wrong decisions on supporting like the whales that they knew, just for the whales that they knew to leave. I'm talking about Pacman, obviously the other meme coin on Blast at the time. Strategy is the same. Enable biggest meme to billions, get a bunch of other meme projects as your clients, market make on them and make millions too. I figured out that this is a strategy that might be used myself, and then it was indirectly confirmed. So Yeah, I'm talking here about the strategy that GotBit essentially used Bonk to get a bunch of clients and get a lot of exposure into the ecosystem, a lot of money, and they were kind of planning to do that in the case of Andy and Blast as well. Setup before the airdrop. So if you think about the setup, there was a company that enabled meme season Sol interested and involved. There was Crash and a lot of things about him that enabled meme season on base. There was a lot of hype on the market on Blast. There were huge expectations for Blast airdrop despite no one specifically knowing how much it could be and how crowded it really is. I do believe the main issue was not giving enough money. I do believe we'd all be trading memes on Blast now, with Pump.Fun first version being on Blast as well, with Andy being, yeah, it's also a crazy thing that Pump.Fun initially applied for the grant on Blast. They were not even thinking about Solana and they got declined. And it's fine if you do that, but if you see the product market fit from the team that you actually declined, like I have a message, I have this in the private messages. I'm saying something like, if I was the CEO of Blast, I would fly into the Pump Fund CEO, I would suck him off and beg him to come back to Blast. If I would see that the thing I actually declined got the huge product market fit. Probably at the time they would still not do it, but at least they might have some support on Blast. At least they might span up some activity on Blast out there, which obviously was not done because, I do believe because of the egos. When I think about that, yeah, like the whole game, the whole thing is just, crypto is like the most directed thing. It just translates your ego into money like right away, and so many mistakes, so many issues actually being done because of the egos, and everyone is young as well. It definitely hurts. Like if you're older, as Max essentially in this case, you can manipulate these fucking kids out there and fuck them the way you want, right? I do believe the main issue was not giving enough money from Blast airdrop to essentially people that farm Blast. I do believe we'd all be trading memes on Blast now, with Pump Fun first version being on Blast as well, with Andy being in 5 billion market cap, with ecosystem flourishing if only more money were given. I have a strong case to support that as well, but I do really feel like we live in the weird fucking pocket of reality. I will talk about this later as well. It's pretty fucking insane. Who I blame in the fact that Blast airdrop flopped, and Andy as a result. This is the interesting part. So this is the video from private BecauseBitcoin channel. Unfortunately, I was not able to download that, despite the fact I actually sent it to my video editor at the time I watched it, and I asked him, please like download it. They will remove it. They will remove it 100%. And as a fact, they essentially removed it, mainly because Max, he's making fun of Bobo here. He's saying like, look how Bobo is trading badly in comparison to Ethereum and is just way better. And it was exactly at the top of the Andy-Bobo pair. What happened right after is that Andy started to correct and Bobo started to pump to the same levels as Andy has been before. I actually wanted to cut this and send it to Crash and say this thing like, man, this happened to me in my company 2 times at least. All the people fucking me up because I was younger and me like not understanding this thing. Look who you created. This is Boba. Look who you supported. And I did not do that. Maybe it would actually change things for Andy and Blast as well. I don't even remember why. I just thought that like who I am to give this type of advice to Crash, or maybe like he will not check out the message anyway. Yeah, maybe it actually was the other mistake because there's a high chance he did not see like this video, right? And I do believe the main reason why they don't do streams anymore is this issue with Andy on ETH and Bobo, and the fact that Andy on ETH flipped Bobo and Crash heavily helped it actually by not supporting his own community, but supporting this community, which eventually farmed all of the communities of Crash and launched their own thing, which kind of was the goal with Andy on Blast, I would say as well, but we never had wide support from Brett community or from Bobo community out there. So who's the person to blame? Me, myself, right? You should always blame yourself for everything that's happened, but in this case, it's a bit of esoteric outcomes, but let's just go through it. Let's just go through it. There's definitely more to life than we understand at this stage, and the dogma is trying to tell us. I was not talking shit when I was talking about divine energy. If you remember when I was pushing Andy on Blast before the airdrop, I was saying about like this golden disc, this golden glow out there, and I really felt it at that point of time, because I do believe that reality was set up in a way to actually make these things come true. And like it should have been the culmination of all of this work, the culmination of all of my like desires and goals and wishes for like 6-7 years. And funny thing is that I know exactly the moment when my energy stopped flowing. I know exactly the moment when I started to give it away. I know exactly the moment, and like since that time everything just went to shit. Let's just go through this thing. The period before airdrop was the most rich period on me talking to my higher self. I was receiving some fucking random messages in my head. It was insane. I was dressed up like a hobo. I was walking a lot on the streets, just constantly thinking about tweets. Like, the state I was insane. Some of you might say it was just a state of the gambler eventually winning, right? But yeah, it was insane. It was way different than from the times when I was pushing Boba. And the things that I was sharing about different people involved in the process, a lot of them, they essentially came true. I know exactly the date and the time my energy started leaving me, and it was a day before airdrop. I know exactly the event and why it happened, and right after that, everything just went to shit. You might think I'm quite insane here, as I'm implying I was controlling reality there, and the reason of Blast airdrop flopping and Indian Blast dumping is because I was not able to control it at a proper level before the culminative event. But I truly believe that. I truly believe that my inability to control the reality at the peak important moment and me losing my energy because of the concrete event I know about. I can tell you the time, I can tell you the date. It's quite personal, so I'm not going to talk about it. This was the cause. This was the cause of the whole thing. I had a dream of Crash buying Indy at $40 million market cap saying faggot. I'm pretty sure that this is something that happened. And I have people at that time that I was writing to like, hey, I just had a dream of Crash buying Andy on Blast at $40 million market cap and saying faggot, kind of like in my direction because he obviously didn't like me much at that stage. I do believe that like if Crash will be watching this, or if there will be any people who can just talk to Crash, you can just figure it out like by yourself. Like, I'm pretty fucking confident this actually happened. It's like I've seen it vividly. It's not like it was not just my default dream. I've seen it vividly. The next day or the day before, I also had a dream that Ansem that was interested about like Blast and Indian Blast. And if you're around Ansem, you can also ask. I remember I've seen like him talking about it, some like type of kitchen or things like that. Or like if he's like, I don't think if he will be watching this video, but most likely not. Yeah, it would be a very interesting thing to at least get the confirmation of these things happening from these people, because sometimes things I see, they actually happen, right? The setup was so fucking good. Biggest cabal enabling all the fucker on Solana being there. So people behind Bonk, arguably, they were there as well. I have a strong feeling give away not much on airdrop was last minute decision. So this is something I essentially believe as well. The tick that I was getting, that the decision to give a small amount of money on the Blast airdrop was last minute decision. Because of uncertainty, because of lack of understanding, because there's this thing in business, right? If you have 1% of information about a decision, housewife with no business expertise, she will be able to always make the right decision. The expertise, the efficiency, the money that the CEOs and the founders are making is mostly based on the fact that they are making uninformed decisions where they have 40%, 60%, 70% of information. And these decisions, they essentially, the outcome of this decision is that them being correct. In this case, if Pacman only knew the setup, if Pacman only knew what type of market makers are essentially behind that plan, if Pacman only knew all the fuckery that happened with Crash, if Pacman only knew all the history that happened with Andy on Ethereum and on Blast, if Pacman only paid attention, his team, and the fact that like his team did not like share it, or maybe they just decided it's not like something important because they faded meme coin games because they're rich this cycle and they care more about staking and essentially adding more whales into the product, not thinking about like real product market fit and virality between degens. If they only paid attention, the information that they would have around decision would like jump from like 40% to 60%. And this would probably help them to make the right decision in this case, which was just give people more money. If they would just have given people more money, I do believe Andy will be at $5 billion market cap, Blast will be flipping base, Blast will be close to Solana by volumes, Pump Fund will be coming back to Blast, Crash will be launching Bird Dog or his version of the meme on Blast, 100%. I even think that partially in a way, the fact I was not able to control the reality at the time is partially the reason why the CEO of GotBit is in jail, because if the things happen this way, maybe he would never be in jail, right? Who knows? It's almost like he didn't trust and that backfired hugely. The same way the energy I was pushing this thing left me one day before the airdrop. So if someone knows Pacman and can talk about it, or Pacman himself, if he would be watching this video, I would really like Pacman to just confirm for himself and maybe for people around Pacman, was the decision to give small amount of money, last minute, last day decision, because I strongly felt that I read it from the field. I read it from the ether. The same way I've seen Crash buying Endion Blast at 40 million cent faggot, the same way I've seen Ansem discussing it a couple of days before the airdrop. I didn't come out with 1 billion target out of nothing. I received it and had it confirmed by people that had done it before. Top people. Good people. When I told them Brett Cabal might launch Andy on Binance just to protect Brett, which happened a couple of days after, they said, all right, we know the guys very well. They were very, very fucking calm, indicating the fact that they were the ultimate strongest cabal out there ready to support Blast and Andy. They were just sure that, yeah, let them launch, we don't fucking care. We pushed our things to billions of dollars, they only pushed Brett to 800 million, we will fuck them. Hack number 4, part 1. Yeah, it's honestly like, I don't want to bash on Pacman. I do believe that the amount of hype that he was able to like implement on the product, things like that, it was pretty insane. But at this point of time, like, it's kind of like a fail thing out there, especially with all the potential, with all the people that were around it. Like, if you think about that, people that enabled meme seasons on different chains like GotBit on Solana and Crash on Base, they were all around his chain. They were all around the main meme on his chain. They didn't see it because they were not trenched and they missed the trend fully. And they had like 10 months to understand the trend. They had 10 months, multiple of my videos to understand like what really was the product market fit. And it was not like, you know, like it was selling. I was DMing him multiple times, like a bunch of times. No response, obviously, right? He only responded me and supported me when Endion Blast was like a $2 million and it just dumped heavily from there. Very nice. Now imagine being Pacman here. Failed in recognizing pump.fun product market fit and give it in grant to build on Blast. Not acting on doing everything to return pump.fun back to Blast when it was obvious that it reached product market fit. Fading support from Crash and all the drama that happened. Fading the numbers that Andy actually brought onto the chain. Fading the mindshare and hype that was happening around Andy on ETH, around all this drama. Just fucking support Andy on Blast. There. Just pump it. Just put like $5 million into there. It would be fucking insane. You would be having insane activity. I'm not even talking about the airdrop time. I'm talking even before, because Endion Blast, it was pumping 3 times at least, right? Fade market maker that enabled Solana. Obviously, that's the main issue out there. I'm not sure like what type of communication they had, how much they knew, but yeah, from the point of view of the business owner in this industry, that's absolutely fucking insane. Fading Crash, GotBit, all of the above, but not believing in them and themselves and giving poor airdrop. Fading biggest meta of the cycle, along with biggest influencers involved and acting zero on that. It's not like it was hard to recognize. They definitely had people knowing what was happening on chain. Pacman had multiple DMs from my end, as well as most likely talks with all the parties involved. They were sitting in their own echo chamber supporting Pacman, which is also an ego thing if you think about that. Most likely he also wanted, you know, like, I want the biggest meme on chain to be in my name, because these guys are fucking young as well. He's also partially Asian, and Asians arguably, they have even more ego than the guys out there, oftentimes. And what else they knew? Just for them to leave them afterwards, because Pacman essentially left Blast eventually, and they received so much fucking support. Like, this is behavior of pussies. This is way worse than something that Max essentially did, because Max had his reasons. Like, the community totally rejected him. They were publicly swearing on him and things like that. But this is just such a fucking pussy behavior. They were receiving support from Blast. Like, I don't know, like, the places I'm from, you would just get fucking killed. Like, it's hard for me to even talk about. It's like pure pussy Western fucking behavior. When like you're fucking sucking the cock of your wife boyfriend before he'll actually be ready to fuck your wife, so he will be hard. Like, this is what to me is fucking Pacman living in Blast. After the support that they received. You cannot be fucking doing that. Well, in a way, you can actually say that Boba pumped because of Crash, and I was bashing on Brett and on Crash. Well, you might even say that, like, in that way, I was kind of making the same behaviors, right? I feel like infinite regret, and I feel infinitely bad about the fact. But man, at the same time, I wanted to protect the retail. I wanted to protect the audience. Like, why the fuck you should be buying Brett at 300 million at that time, right? It's hard. Just for them to leave them afterwards. Fading the chance to turn your blockchain into Solana and Base. Right after this happened, Justin Sun and CZ tried to implement the same thing for their own blockchains. And they failed, as they don't understand how the space works, and they were not actively trenching and being present in this part of the market since the beginning. I recorded a 1-hour naked video and shared with Pacman on how to turn things around for Blast. I followed up multiple times with no response. So to be correct, he responded 2 times. This is an unlisted video. Fuck, you'll probably be able to watch it now. No, you won't because you cannot see the link at the top, right? So this was like peak depression for me. I lost quite a lot of money. I will make a video about that. And it was like peak depression. And to be fair, like Pacman replied to me 2 times, but it's fucking late already. You should have replied in fucking like June, in May, right? You should have supported then, because he finally shared something like, I'm hoping to see Andy Blast button soon, when the whole thing is fucking done already. When it was a 2 million market cap, and like arguably it's even bad for Andy to have the main token of the chain, which is Blast, because people naturally see that like, well, if the main token of the chain is $80 million in market cap, then the meme coin cannot be big, it cannot be huge. And that's why we will not be buying it, because like, what the fuck, can the meme coin can actually be like a larger market cap than the token of the chain. I think like Brett is actually benefiting from the fact that base they don't have their own token out there. Right now might not be the right time for that, but the plan is still genius, in my opinion. The plan that I essentially proposed to Pacman, and I also was proposing it to some other blockchain founders. They just said that they don't have budgets at this stage. No chain is doing that, and each and every chain should be doing that properly, in my opinion. In short, spend all of the marketing funds to pump memes on chain, making sure infrastructure for meme trading extraction is ready beforehand and is controlled by the chain to collect the fees. So you copy all the pump fund infrastructure, copy all the bots, trading bots by the team of the chain. You make sure people only use them because they have incentives. You don't allow the developers Cabal to come in with their own tools. And then you just use all the marketing funds to pump memes on chain. And this is essentially the action of giving away the money of people who are present on chain. In the process of giving away the money, actually making money if you're doing it with the right market maker. And you just span shit ton of activity. And all the like cable influencers, all these scammers, all these like bullshit fucks, they come to your chain because they understand that this is the money to steal there, right? This is fucking genius. Like no one is doing that. No chain currently is raising funds for marketing and spending all the fucking funds into building this infrastructure and spending all the funds on marketing. This is something I proposed to Pacman. By the way, if you're a chain, and if you would want to repeat that for yourself, just when you heard it, you will fucking fail. Send me a DM, we will figure this out. I will get good people, apply good people that done this before. You will fail yourself the same way that CZ and Justin Sun failed. Finalization. Did I scam you? I sell-chained myself into holding. I round trip first time $500,000, then $400,000, and then $1 million plus because of hope for a better future and vision, as well as ego and greed. Arguably, I also round tripped 100K in the last pump of Ended Blast to $4 million, which was around the time when Blast released its mobile app. I put my channel, bunch of work went into it in the last year, 250 plus videos published, and sacrificed it as well as my X page for Andy. Sacrificed pretty much to become this next version of Crash. But if you think about the setup, yeah, like I didn't have the Cabal, I didn't have the supply control, I never had fucking calls with the team of Andy and Blast, like despite the fact that I was pitching them for the call multiple times. We never had support from Blast when we were pushing it as Brett essentially had with base implementation. We never had support from bigger influencers and things like that. So it would be like an insane fucking case if it would succeed. And we were fucking close to actually be a success. And the reason for that is me not being able to control the energy so you can control the reality in proper way. One day before the airdrop. I know the exact time, I know the exact date when this thing fucking happened. We live in the weird fucking pocket of reality. Ended Blast should be at like $3 or $5 billion in market cap at this stage. I should have like for fucking $50 million plus at least. It's a weird fucking pocket of reality. And I do believe I moved us. I moved our version into this pocket of reality. There is a version where all of this happened. Yeah, me to blame. I was a general at the battlefield that failed, and I'm still alive. So the fight is not over, or is it? It's quite hard to talk about the future of Andy and Blast at this stage. Obviously, it heavily depends on the chain because people do see that chain is heavily connected with the situation that is happening with this thing. Chain will probably pump, like the underlying coin of the chain will probably pump, I don't know. There is a very low chance that Pacman will essentially listen and build out mobile infrastructure for trading memes on his chain and use marketing funds, instead of fucking spending marketing funds on the influencers that are trading memes on other chain or supporting like fucking Pacman that leaves your chain. Spend fucking marketing funds on that. You can spend fucking marketing funds to give away them to people who are fucking loyal to you. People who are still holding Andy. People who are fucking holding Pacman Blast. Those are like the most loyal people to your community. And this is the issue. This is the mistake that CZ did. Instead of pumping like current memes on chain, he actually propelled the creation of new ones. He was thinking like not as the founder of the chain, he was thinking as the founder of the exchange, which screwed up a bunch of people and allowed like a bunch of scammers to essentially do shit. And at the same time, he was doing this shit while not having any infrastructure. The chain was fucking lagging, there was like slippage. People were saying that like this shit is unusable. And all of this shit, like I was using DEXs on Blast, like they're arguably even fucking faster than the DEXs on Solana. All of this infra can still be built in the Blast mobile app. All of these marketing funds, they still can be used to pump fucking meme on chains. All of these things is like the most important, the most valuable thing for the business. It turns things around. It pushes Blast into fucking unicorn in no fucking time. Multi-billion-dollar valuation out there. Not just Blast, but any fucking chain. And just because of the fact that like they have this mobile vision, which is pretty nice, pretty interesting. And they have this OG memes on chain. And they have this rich fucking lore. So like all of the market actually knows, they know about this thing. And they were like, people were often like bashing the team of Andy on Blast, but they were doing like their work as well. They attracted like a bunch of Asian whales through the time. Like they attracted a bunch of people from Pacman. There were cases that like the wallets were fucking drained for $200,000 worth of Andy on Blast. The next day, do you know what these people were actually doing? They were buying $200,000 back in. These were the type of whales that Andy on Blast team essentially attracted at the time before the airdrop as well. And the question I have to yourself, knowing all this, analyzing all this, would you not scream at the top of your lungs to get into this thing? Would you not be excited? Would you not try to tell everyone? Again, like, I did not come around the date of the airdrop and say that the target for Andy on Blast in the next months of July is $1 billion market cap. It was not out of nothing. Most of you influencers say this shit out of nothing. And I arguably recently was saying this shit out of nothing. But then it was a different situation. Weird fucking pocket of reality for sure. Yeah, it's definitely hard. All of the things that happened. And you can say that like no people who are involved are bad. Like there are way worse people in terms of like fucking ruggers and scammers. Crash is not bad. Max is not bad as well. Like no one is fucking bad. Pacman is not bad. I do think so as well. I do think like he's not bad. Yeah, it's probably time to end this. Thank you very much for watching this one. Quite emotional, 100%. See you in the battlefield. Bye-bye.